I just think it like watching that generation have their high experience is so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
So
really
funny.
is. But it's nice to see that they're actually taking it and
Yeah.
giving it a try.
Open
Where
minded.
yeah, and it gives them other options.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
Steve, one of my friend's mother, she did recently pass last year, but um, before she did, one of her saving graces was that he brought her topicals. And she never ever ever was a person to condone any kind of THC or CBD or anything like that. It was just generational, for the most part. That's just how it was, and you just trusted your doctor, and that's just what it was. But she found such a great deal of relief at a certain point where he would just come, give her some topicals or something like that. But it was not only the CBD in there, but it had THC as well. So she got a little bit of both. But yeah, and it goes back to saying that there's a lot of seniors that are coming into the cannabis market now, and it's a shift for them,
Mm-hmm.
and providing as many resources as possible. Um, and like you said, Daniel, they don't have always, they're not as internet savvy and things like that. So providing them with just the baseline information for them to go and be successful.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it comes down to like we have to have patience with like patience
Mhm.
for our patients.
Yeah.
They they do. They need a little bit extra guidance and not even just so much in like the logistics of it all, like actually getting hooked up with the doctor and activating the card and all of that. But as far as like shifting that stigma in their own head and turning that off to be able to even talk about it and have the open conversations and be very honest about their expectations. And I think that seniors just need a little bit more handholding. They want to be open to it, or you'll on the other end of the spectrum, you'll get the ones that were hippies back in the day.
Yeah.
Who like haven't consumed in years because they've been working this job that wouldn't let
Yes.
them, and then they want to get back into it and they expect that the market has stayed the same, that the products they had back then are the same ones that they can get access to now.
That's true. That's true.
And that's not one, that's not the case. That's definitely not the case. But
Right.
second, it's evolved so much from then. Like, be proud of that. I think that I have had a lot of seniors that are older people that are older adults that would come in and be like, well, back in my day, we just smoked it. And it's like, that's great. But in Ohio, that's against the law. So this is how we do it now. And I have to instruct them on a dryer vaporizer and this, that, or whatever. So they have to then adjust their own heads, their own mindset about and expectations about what their history was with it and what it is now.
Yeah,
So
I
I
can
think that's
imagine that
another.
it's got to be it's tough for them because
Mhm.
the ability to vape, I think, is also you don't get dry flower or something like that. Or is that what you guys just have to use the dry herb vaporizer and you can
So
use the
yeah,
vape pens?
they sell
Yeah.
flour, but you're not allowed to smoke it
Okay.
in Ohio.
like,
So,
I
Do
have a
people get tickets and
vaporizer.
stuff or what? What happens if you do?
they can take your card away.
They
Okay.
can.
So people still
Realistically, you can't vape. You can't even use your dryer vaporizer in the public anyway. You have to be on private property.
Yeah.
So,
But like in the dispensary, if people were talking about smoking, we would have
You
to
could
correct
not.
them.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
be like,
yeah.
No, you're vaping it. You're vaping it.
or if and if we
like
wanted to be that, what we, I guess, were instructed or taught to do, we would have had to refuse to sell.
refuse to sell and report them for breaking
wow.
For breaking the rule,
the rules.
It's interesting too because here they don't allow a doctor or a medical professional on the staff at a dispensary.
That's why.
But in a lot of other places, like like Ohio, that's what it is. You talk to a pharmacist, and that's
Well,
just so different,
at
so
certain
strange,
stores.
because they don't get a chance to even, oftentimes what I see out there is that they are just dumped out into the go talk to your bud tender, and that's not always the case up here anymore, is that they would have the information. There's not always a foundation for the bud tenders, and they may come from a place where they're not very knowledgeable about it. They may know the products they have, which is extremely helpful.
Sure.
But to add that additional education for the bud tender, I think, is really critical at this stage, because the licensing and the progression and the evolution that we're seeing in the cannabis market calls for it. The patients call for it now. Yep. So that's another thing I think is really important, is to for the dispensary world, I guess, to just remember that that the patients need to have an educated person behind the counter.
I think that's kind of why we're starting to see the push in college programs coming up with dispensary employee education, or a dispensary certificate, or however they word it now, both online and in person, offering these teachings, and specific schools opening up. Like we have the Cleveland School of Cannabis, and I know there's similar establishments elsewhere, but we're seeing that because it's not just, oh, here's this plant, here's all these products you can buy. That's one thing. If you could tell me about this specific product, that's great. That's huge. And that's something that lacks in Ohio, because unless the dispensary worker is also a patient who has also happened to try that specific product, they don't really know. They haven't tried it. There's no samples for dispensary staff. They don't know. They're just going off of what the packaging says. So there is a level of professionalism, I don't know, in the fact that they can speak to that specific product that they're selling. However, to not be able to instruct the patient or educate the patient on why that would be a beneficial product for them and what they have going on.
Yeah.